Welcome everyone to an introduction to Scoop Analytics, the first data workbench for ops. What is Scoop and how can it help you harness your data better? Well, we're going to dive into a tour today for Scoop and relate that to the world of operations professionals. At Scoop, we want to level up how you work with data, level up your ability to grab data from anywhere yourself without help from technical resources, level up your ability to work with it, fashion it into the insight you need, and level up your ability to deliver it in the most effective data stories possible. So let's start with the current state of tools for ops professionals. In short, there are a lot of them, each running an important part of your business, each generating data and perhaps giving you a slice of visibility. However, understanding performance requires bringing it all together, wrangling that data into a cohesive story that explains what is working and what isn't, and guides the way to better execution. It's difficult, however. On the one hand, you can use the ubiquitous spreadsheet. It's totally under your control, totally flexible. You can calculate pretty much anything based on a modest set of static numbers. However, if you want to deal with data that is changing, evolving, and flowing from multiple different places, then you have to move up to a vastly more complicated data stack with many moving pieces. Essentially, building one of these is a custom engineering job each time you go to use one, often requiring expensive, complicated, and slow processes that divert a lot of resources from things like lead gen and sales and marketing, and often can't respond fast enough to what you need. Scoop fits in the middle. It leverages your spreadsheet skills, but infuses them with live data and the ability to use those skills to create real data sets, blend them, manipulate them, and use them to create whatever insights required, all without needing to set up databases, set up servers, write code, manage infrastructure, etc. Imagine Scoop is your own personal data team. Here's how it works. With Scoop, we have a variety of mechanisms for gathering data from other applications that you use on a regular basis. Could be as simple as an API, could also be a report. Some applications have APIs, some applications don't, doesn't matter. Scoop will grab data from anywhere with its unprecedented ability to grab data from every application you use, and then bring that together into data sets inside the Scoop platform that you can bring together with other data sets to create really powerful, insightful blends of data that you can then analyze and turn into deep insight into how your processes evolve and how your business is performing. There's a lot of reporting and a lot of analysis that you can do as an ops professional. And in fact, management typically wants a lot of this analysis. However, the needs of the organization can easily outstrip your capacity to deliver. The business obviously will perform better when it gets more information faster, more often, and can ask key questions it needs in real time. Problem is spreadsheets are slow, manual, and laborious. Operational reporting from single applications is siloed and generally limited to simple aggregations versus real analysis. And data warehousing is an enormous investment of time, energy, and money, and is slow to adapt. Scoop translates that BI data warehousing stack into the skill set of spreadsheets and adds in the world of data storytelling so you can get more information to the professionals that need it faster and tell more compelling stories. How can you start? Well, Scoop's made that easy too. We've prepackaged a set of what we call recipes, which are prepackaged use cases that incorporate the data sets that you already know. In fact, we have a concept called instant recipes, where with a single click, you can connect to one of your key data sources and instantly have results. Start there, and then start leveraging in additional data sources to get more complicated and more interesting output. What's interesting here is the story that I'm telling is actually from within Scoop itself. So I'm going to pop back out and show you the rest of Scoop. Scoop is designed for data storytelling, and so that's just a key part of it. I'm going to move back out to the Canvas gallery here at Scoop so you can see that when you walk into Scoop and you look at it, you're really looking at a variety of data stories in the form of canvases. Canvases are basically infinite whiteboards where you can interlay different stories, different visual elements, and different narrative elements to tell your data story. In this particular case, I have a bunch of different use cases, and I'm going to be able to create these canvases from a variety of different sources. I can create one from scratch, just simply a blank whiteboard. I can actually start with a presentation. I can import my PowerPoint or my Google Slides and use everything in there that I would otherwise be using to tell a story, but in this case have it be live and interactive. Or I can start from a pre-built recipe, which just simply connects to a data source that I have and instantly creates a set of analyses for me that I can use to then drill in on and add more content to. I'm going to move into a specific example here to show you what one of these looks like in detail. This is a sales forecasting recipe, and I'm going to move into edit mode so you can kind of see the different elements that you can tell with a Scoop narrative. On a Scoop canvas, you can interlay various types of summarizations, visualizations, charts, tables, and other elements as well. Scoop integrates with the world that you already know really well, including spreadsheets. So much so, it actually lets you infuse those data stories with spreadsheet data live. When you connect a spreadsheet into Scoop, that spreadsheet is live and presented immediately in that story itself, and people can actually use those spreadsheets to alter data and have anything that's based on that be instantly updated, so you can interact with your data live as you're having discussions about it. We also have a variety of other different visual storytelling items that also let you tell far more than just a simple dashboard would let you do. After you create this, you can, of course, share these presentations and present them, just as I did before. When you share them, you can share them publicly, privately, or even share them with individualized filters so that individual people see individual cuts of data that they want on their own. This makes it very easy for you to share your data and make sure the right people get to see the right content. And when they see it, they can interact with it and ask additional questions without having to come back and feel totally empowered to utilize that data on their own. Now, let's drill in a little bit further here. With Scoop, we can see a variety of different types of information together. In this particular example, on the left-hand side, I have a revenue versus goal visualization. That sounds pretty simple, but in reality, it's quite hard. Usually, goal information is kept in a very different place, often in a spreadsheet. Revenue information is probably kept in a place like your CRM. With Scoop, it's very simple to have both of those live and in the same place. In fact, you can change the number directly in your spreadsheet. It will update immediately here. No ETL, no managing data loads, no data teams. You have complete control yourself. In addition, every element here in Scoop is live and interactive. So if I see something like the snapshot amount of my pipeline per week and I wanted to see where those leads came from, I can drill in right here and get a sense. I can answer questions in place without having to go back to a data team. I'm taking notes and coming back a week later or whatever it is, I can see it right here and right now. Another important thing about Scoop is when it grabs data from different sources, Scoop automatically snapshots that data. Snapshotting is actually a fairly sophisticated topic, handling dates and times and filling in data and doing a variety of things that data teams typically have to do behind the scenes. Scoop has a snapshotting engine that does that completely automatically for everything. You can connect it to every data object that Scoop is connected to, whether that's opportunities, leads, tickets, service requests, bugs, you name it. Scoop will snapshot it and will snapshot every element. Why is that powerful? Because it helps you see how your business is changing. Most analytics, like operational reports that come in base applications, are like the odometer on your car. They tell you how far you've gone. Scoop is the speedometer. It's telling you how fast you're actually running. In this particular example right here, I'm actually looking at forecasts over time. I can see how much those changed, where, when, and drill down and see where that actually happened. That gives me the power to have keen insight in terms of what's changing without wasting time asking repetitive questions that don't get me anywhere. In addition, Scoop can let me actually interact with my data live and in place. So on those presentations, in addition to having presentation content, those sheets are actually incorporated into my presentation itself. I can see the formulas, I can see the sources, and I can actually change the content in place. We call these things sheetlets. And they basically let you change either input assumptions or projections or even change data that would drive other visualizations or other calculations that happen. All of this is live and interactive in a single place and lets you really take control of your own data storytelling and lets you integrate the visual narrative with the technical narrative as well at the same time. In addition to aggregations and visualizations, Scoop actually delves another step deeper when it comes to things like processes and snapshotting. Once Scoop runs snapshots, it will actually analyze across all of those different snapshots and come up with a change history flight log for your business. And that allows you to see the evolution of how your business is actually performing. Here's an example of a Sankey chart that actually helps you understand how cohorts of deals evolve over time. That could be true for deals, that could be true for leads, that could be true for tickets, service requests, you name it. In addition, Scoop will build detailed process diagrams that help you understand the performance of individual elements and help you understand not only the conversion rates, but cycle times. It's a really powerful part of Scoop that builds on that deep snapshotting capability that Scoop has. If I go build one of those from scratch, for example, I can move over to the Insights section of Scoop and create one. They're super simple to create. Here's an example of a Salesforce opportunity report. I simply want to pick which element I want to see change over time, in this case, sales stage. And then I want to understand what success is, in this case, closed won. And on the fly, Scoop will create a process diagram that will help me understand how things evolve in my business. I can, of course, filter that down. I can understand how that changes also based on deal type, based on channel, forecast category, whatever that might be. So if I really want to understand where things are bogging down, I can do that. This is a vastly different situation than someone holding up two reports side by side and trying to visually eyeball. Scoop can do this completely automatically on your own. So where does this data come from? Well, Scoop lets individuals create their own data sets based on whatever data sources that they want to connect to. As I mentioned before, Scoop has a rich library of applications that you can connect to. Scoop will go in and grab that data, whether it's via API or some other mechanism. If your application doesn't have an API, Scoop also has an email interface. You literally can forward in a report to Scoop, and that report can be in HTML, CSV, Excel, PDF, whatever it is. And Scoop will scoop the data out of that report and turn that into a data set for you. And once you've done that and created data sets from these different sources, you can then combine them with other Scoop data sets to create powerful, rich, interactive combinations. Imagine taking your finance data and blending costs and expenses with things like marketing or sales or service data to really understand the cost of your activities in your business. This is one of those true intersection points that relatively few organizations get to because it's so hard to do. It requires not just technical skills to bring different data sets together, but it requires different knowledge of different domains. It's typically outside the purvey of a data team. With Scoop, the individual and the ops professional who knows how these applications work can put these together themselves. That leads to some pretty powerful outcomes in the process. So with that, what do you do with this information? Well, you can bring data into Scoop, and Scoop, as I mentioned before, will snapshot that data every day. When you bring the data in, Scoop is sort of like your own mini data team. It actually analyzes that data and does all those complicated data modeling things like figuring out data types, figuring out unique keys, figuring out formats, figuring out aggregation rules, all the stuff that someone would otherwise have to do in one of those data tools that's out there. Scoop figures it out for you. In fact, it infers information from your reports and makes those assumptions without you having to do that yourself. And once it brings it in, you can then work with it without you having to set up databases, set up tables, or manage any of that infrastructure. More importantly as well, it snapshots all that data over time. So you can go back, it's like a flight log or a time machine for your business. You can see every bit of data going back, and Scoop lets you really drill into that and understand how your business has been performing. But let's pretend for a second that you want to do more than just use the data that comes directly from those reports. You want to be able to add to it. This is typically where most of the systems break down, is how do I, as a business professional, actually take the data that I have and then enrich it. I know there's some interesting KPIs that I want. I know there's some calculations I want to add. I want to add a lookup table, for example. Well, I can send that to a data team. They can go create tables in a database and do a bunch of SQL and know what their left outer joins and all these other crazy things are. Or I can go into Scoop and I can use our own spreadsheet interface, which is actually a spreadsheet. It's not spreadsheet-like. And I can see the fields that came in on the source data table that I have. I can decide whether I want to include them or not. I can see some example values. And then if I wanted to add new columns, I simply type them in as I would in a spreadsheet, and then I create formulas in the actual format of Excel. You don't have to learn new languages, learn new skills. You simply get to use all the great Excel formulas that you have to create anything that you like. And you can use those same formulas to create new tables based on the data sets that you already have. This gives you, as an ops professional, unprecedented power to manipulate the data, work with it in a workbench format, create new derived data sets, and then do analysis with them. And once you've done that, you can explore that data and derive additional insight from it. So that sales opportunity data set that we were looking at a second ago, here's just an example of looking at it over time. I can sort of look at it longitudinally. Here's deals by stage, for example. And if I wanted to look at that monthly, I could do that pretty easily, which is pretty powerful. I can have a variety of different ways of charting, visualizing it, turning it into KPIs, all the kinds of things that you'd expect. But what's also powerful about Scoop is Scoop understands sophisticated things like dates. This is actually pretty challenging for data teams to deal with. In your data sets, there's lots of different dates. Scoop makes all those available for you. So if you want to understand how those different snapshots looked over time, you can look at it by snapshot, but you could also look at it by close date to see what you're expecting for deals to close by different stages and different deal teams. This is a very powerful ability to explore your data, see what's actually happening with it, and create new and compound different ways of slicing and dicing it. In addition to that, Scoop lets you create your own formulas based on the data sets that are already there, using, again, the same spreadsheet syntax that you could otherwise know from Excel and Google Sheets. This gives you the ability to create new derived formulas and use those in things like your process diagrams and in your data stories that you're using to share more information about whatever it is that you care to describe. One last thing, Scoop is designed to be presentable. So as you're building these analyses, Scoop has deep and rich styling and formatting that are possible in how you present things. This means it's not something to be off to the side that you then take a screenshot and drop in your presentation. There's a rich styling engine that allows you to switch themes, have rich colors that you can play with in the process, and turn those into powerful visual presentations that you actually would not be embarrassed to share in an executive meeting or in a review deck or a QBR or a board deck or something like that. So if you want to have those decks infused with live data, Scoop is really your answer for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to questions.
Thank you, Brad. Yes, super insightful. And we have had a few questions come in. I know we have a few minutes left to answer them. And I know they have been slightly answered, but yeah, obviously we'd love to see if you have any more context as well. So the first question here has come from Jason, who said, what data governance and security features are in place, particularly when blending data from multiple sources?
Well, first of all, we have the ability to define common KPIs and common usage so that once they're set up in Scoop, that can be the reusable objects that people can share. We make it really easy to share data sets for folks that can be then blessed and used across the organization as a whole. The nice thing, though, is it lets people bring in their own logic and share that with others so that they can be seen and utilized by others and reviewed. So logic isn't being used in some sort of dark corner that you're not aware of.
Awesome, nice. And the second question here is from Rosie, who said, how does Scoop handle historical data and snapshots for trend analysis over time?
That's one of the powers of Scoop, is that it does the snapshotting for you. We can look at any data set that you have and pull in historical data as well. But once we have those snapshots, oftentimes those snapshots don't exist in the source. We're creating them because we're doing that. So that data wouldn't exist there. But once you have those snapshots, you can do deep and rich analysis over time of all of the changes that happen to those snapshots. Like I mentioned before, we have an analysis engine that walks all those snapshots to derive all those different changes and velocities in those snapshots.
Awesome, amazing. Well, that is all the questions we do have. I know we are at time as well. But if anyone in the audience does have any more questions for Brad around Scoop, please do feel free to press on that personalized one-to-one link. And we'll be happy to connect with the team to set up some time and chat a bit more about the platform. So Brad, thank you so much for taking the time to share us a bit more about Scoop Analytics and what it can do. And to everyone that tuned in, thank you very much. And we'll see you all very soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, everyone.